Hey, welcome back to the Holocron Chronicles, episode 119 here on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. I am your nondescript X-Wing flying through the stars Star Wars dude. I'm Charlie Carden, joined by Peter Stein, who is actually flying through the stars. Boy, man, I guess I better find a new shtick. But he's also doing the Jedi thing. He's got the Michael Jackson glove on. I'm impressed. That is if this is on YouTube. I don't know. I know that's one of our production things we're considering of what ends up on YouTube anymore. But regardless, we're joined by a returning guest, a very good friend of mine, and OG Star Wars fan from back in the day, even before our days, Mr. Jonathan Snedeker. Jonathan, how are you today?
Very good. Charlie, Peter, good to see both of you. Happy to be here.
You got it. All right, man. Well, we're going to get into, we can kind of bypass the, hey, how would you die in the Star Wars universe? Because we hit Jonathan with that last time when he was with us on, when we were talking about American Graffiti. But this time we are wrapping up the original Star Wars trilogy. We're getting to Return of the Jedi, which you see behind me. I was trying to position myself so you could see it behind me. But yeah, it's kind of a big deal because when we kind of did our soft reboot of the show, we decided that the best approach was to start at the beginning. So that's kind of what we're doing, and we've got some other things in store. But we also have some new content to talk about because the second season of the Lego Star Wars Rebuilding the Galaxy is out. I watched it this morning. I'm excited about that. So we're going to chat about that.
Humor.
Yeah, we'll chat about that next time around. So we'll jump in to talking about that. So we got a great show for you, but I always want to talk about our Secret Friends Unite Patreon over at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. Exclusive programs. We're getting on track with some exciting new stuff. All of our shows come out early over there, so you get them a day early, kind of stay on top of stuff. We've got a great Secret Friends Unite Discord that actually has a separate channel just for Patreon. So there's a lot of great stuff waiting for you over there at, again, patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. Your first week is free. Can't turn that down. Half off your first month, and you can stick around for as little as $2 a month to get all that great content. So I highly recommend it. Come check us out for 7 days. Listen to stuff like the great interviews that we've had. Just the other night, Peter and I talked to a groundbreaking CGI artist who got his career started in the late 90s and these days is at the threshold of the kind of the AI revolution. So it was a very interesting chat that we had with this person whose name I won't mention because you should tune in when that interview drops. See? Sell the sizzle, not the steak. Isn't that right? Jonathan's a marketing professor. Am I right, Jonathan?
Yes, always leave them wanting more.
Always leave them wanting more. I like it. All right. Well, we did have a bit of news. The Emmys aired this past week. Was it last week or the week before?
Last week.
I think it might have been. Yeah, now I can't remember. But our beloved Andor, which we've talked about very fondly on this program, and of course is one of the few Star Wars things that's come along in recent years that is pretty much universally beloved. But even that being said, I've run into some people said, I don't get it. It's too slow, blah, blah, blah. Hey, you know what? Nothing is all things to all people. But it was up for a number of awards. Peter, what did they win for?
The one that it won most recently was an Emmy for Outstanding Writing.
Outstanding.
So...
Yeah,
and was it for just a single episode or was it the whole thing?
I'm looking at this blurb now. Its competition was The Pit, Severance, The White Lotus, and others.
Welcome to the Rebellion specifically.
Right, which was some pretty powerful stuff. So, Jonathan, have you dipped your toe in the waters of watching Andor yet?
I have not caught up to that. I've seen it there. It's on Disney Plus, if I remember right.
That is correct.
And it's sitting there amongst all the other offerings for the Star Wars. So I did take a look through there and I spotted it and I'm going, that looks like a good idea.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend it.
It's pretty good.
So, that is there on Disney Plus for people who still have Disney Plus because they're going through some troubles right now. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm not getting rid of it because we do this program. It's kind of important to what we do here. So, but anyway, so I'm excited about that. So Andor is out there. It's an entirety. Jonathan, it's 2 seasons of Peter. Was it the first season was
12 episodes,
and then it was I think it was 9 for the second season. But the second season, I would say, really outstrips the first, in my opinion. And it leads you directly to Rogue One, which is just an exceptional, Disney-related Star Wars movie that came out back in 2016, which I'm sure you've seen. I hope. You still with me there, buddy?
Yes, I am. Actually, you're going to have to back up because I missed that last part. Which have I seen?
I was talking about Rogue One.
Oh, I've definitely seen that. Sure.
Yeah, great flick, right?
Yes,
so
it was.
this is the precursor to that. So,
uh-huh.
I highly recommend. But yeah, well earned, and I don't really recall a time in the recent history that there's been a writing related reward for Star Wars. Maybe there's never been. I'm not sure. It doesn't really come to mind.
All I noticed was special effects. They seem to do very, very well in special effects. So
right, yeah. I mean, that's
if I did see a writing, I may have seen one other one, but it's not jumping to mind where it was.
Yeah, gotcha. So so that works for me. So, well, cool. Yeah, that's all that I saw that I thought was kind of notable in the news world. So, unless there are anything else out there that I'm forgetting about, Peter? Like I said, I did a skim over at StarWarsNews.net.
No,
which is
I don't think there's anything
okay
groundbreakingly interesting. So
very good. All right. Well, let's get to the meat and bones. I love it how we can just keep things moving here. But yeah, we're bringing the original trilogy to a close. Today we are talking about Return of the Jedi from 1983. Jonathan, if I'm not mistaken, you were a college lad at that time. You probably went to go see it with friends, or
I did. Actually, I recall it very well. I did go during, it would have been what was my junior year, the beginning of my junior year in college. And I remembered a couple of friends who were really geeked about it because it looked like we were finally going to get the conclusion that everybody wanted,
right?
Based on the previous two movies. So, yes, I remember standing in line, getting tickets, going in early. I don't think I went the first week, but I probably went within the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
To check it out, and very enjoyable. Actually, I have it up there as one of my favorites, but I think after revisiting all this, I think The Empire Strikes Back is really truly my favorite.
It's always been that way for me.
Yeah. But still, a very enjoyable film. It got great reviews at the time. I know that Siskel and Ebert both gave it 4 stars, and I know that there was a lot of talk from people that worked not only in movies, but also in some of the other media about the fact that it was just as good as the previous two as far as delivering the Star Wars.
Right. The Wars of the Star. There was without a doubt a very epic Star Warsian battle. But let me break it down here. Let me give you the summary. So obviously, as we said, from 1983, film was directed by Richard Marquand, who is a Welshman. He's from the UK director who didn't really have any big blockbuster credits under his belt, as it were, but his way in coming around to doing that, I'm sure, will be revealed. But yeah, he was not the first choice, unfortunately. But yes, it was a screenplay by Lawrence. Screenplay was from Lawrence Kasdan, who was instrumental in The Empire Strikes Back, and of course Lucas himself. And as if by fate, there was on YouTube, as I was doing my regular YouTube surfing this week, there was a 20 Things You Didn't Know About Return of the Jedi. And one thing that was really highlighted is that Lucas was, without a doubt, the ghost director of this film. He was in Marquand's ear, up his butt, as it were, like every shot, maybe directing little side things by himself. Like he was your typical micromanager, it sounds like, by the regards of how this film was getting made. But if I know Jonathan, I bet he's got some further insight on that as we get a little closer. But yeah, let me run through this right quick, and then we'll jump into that. The film follows, obviously, the ongoing struggle between the Empire and the Rebel Alliance. Now we have a second Death Star. Whoops, where'd that come from? And Luke's mission is to bring his father, finally confirmed to be his father, because really, if you watch the end of Empire, you get the vibe that Luke knows it's true, because Vader says, it's true, and then he has that moment when he's in the Millennium Falcon where they're having the kind of the telepathic speak, and he's like, father, like, Ben, why didn't you tell me? Like, you really, you really felt that it was true, that it wasn't like he wasn't just gaslighting him. I don't know, but again, it's not like I wasn't living it in real time. I was a child, so I saw The Empire Strikes Back, and I was like, I wonder if it's an existential crisis. I wonder if it's really true. I just kind of accepted it to be true anyway. But as mentioned, Steven Spielberg, this was another bit about it. David Lynch and David Cronenberg, who are famous for very avant-garde horror films, body horror films and stuff, all considered to direct before Marquand again was signed on. The production team relied on Lucas's storyboards during pre-production, Mr. Big Vision. In shooting the script, Lucas casted Marquand and Howard, I can never say this guy's name, Kazajan? What do you think, Peter?
Kazanjian
spent 2 weeks in conference discussing how to break it down. The filming took place in England, California, and Arizona from January to May of 1982. As Peter mentioned, as Jonathan mentioned, came out in the springtime of 1983, grossing $374 million worldwide, which, if you throw that in the inflation calculator, that's pretty impressive. Highest grossing film of 1983. As Jonathan said, well received by critics, with strong praise going to the performances of the actors, Williams' score, special effects, and action sequences. Several re-releases and revisions of the film have followed over the decades, which is what I'm going to cover. But in doing this and having it be re-released, that gross has ballooned to nearly $500,000 total, which is not bad. I would go see it in the theater. I will go see it in the theater if they, drop it again for the 50th and in several years from now. The United States Library of Congress selected it for preservation for the National Film Registry in 2021. My.
That's quite a bit later than the other two.
Yeah, well, hey, that fits because of the original trilogy. Most people I talk to would kind of put this one third place. I don't know. I personally like the first one more than this one, and Empire being my favorite, so I guess I'd put it third. But really, I like Rogue One better than I like this one, so it kind of pushes it out of my top three. But boy, it's just absolutely a matter of personal preference. There's no doubt about it. So, all right, Jonathan, who always does such an amazing job being prepared and has great research, talk to me about this film. How are you feeling about it?
So you mentioned that there were some directors that were up for consideration, and Steven Spielberg was one of them. It was a sort of a who's who list, and how they settled on this Marquardt fella is kind of interesting. I kind of felt like he was like fourth place. I feel like there were other people ahead of him who were already involved in other projects and just couldn't pull away to do this particular film. When you say that, also that Lucas had his hands all over it, that's sort of his style anyway, I think. And I think working with the director he ended up picking gave him more of a license to do that. So I think really what we're seeing is a Lucas film that was directed by Lucas and written by Lucas, who had a assistant director. I don't mean to knock him down a peg, but I really feel like his influence isn't in the film. I feel like it's really Lucas that's driving pretty much what we see. So one of the things that when I was doing my research was, why was this film successful? You mentioned that it was $375 million worth at the box office, and it cost them a tenth of that. They spent about $37 million to put this film together.
So crazy.
So they did a fine job of making it profitable. It was sort of a foregone conclusion that it would be profitable, but how do you continue to top, two very popular movies ahead of it? And I feel like the audience loves this movie, not because it was better than the previous two. I just think they liked the closure that came with it, because there were so many things that got wrapped up in this movie. It's sort of, okay, now I understand what I saw in the other two movies, and now I totally get it. So, like Yoda confirming that Luke's father was Darth Vader, who was Anakin Skywalker. I think that was a big moment that, it was kind of, when I watched it, I'm like, this is a really big moment, because it's while Yoda is dying, right? And I just feel like it could have been bigger. I mean, it was sort of like, I must go to sleep. I got to go to sleep now. And then he lays down, and then he's like, yes, he's your father. It's like, come on, like build a little more into it. But I think still the audience would like that closure.
Mm-hmm.
I think now we know for sure. He also figures out that Leia, his sister, is the other Jedi that Yoda keeps referring to, and he confirms it with Obi-Wan, right? So that's a big moment in the film because then it suddenly points the direction of where they need to go as the Rebel Alliance. So I'm like, okay, what went into building this film? So they start with a rescue, right? Han
Mhm.
Solo, he's been carbonated, right? He's trapped in carbonite. That's a joke, by
Mm-hmm.
the way.
Carbonated,
Yeah,
like Pepsi.
yeah, pretty much.
Oh, that's a good early title for the episode. Keep talking.
Yes, and then you have Jabba the Hutt, who is sort of a big part of that rescue because he's holding everybody captive, and then he just keeps grabbing more and more people and making them captive. The thing about Boba Fett, now that I watch it 40 years later, I mean, not Boba Fett, I'm sorry. Now that I'm looking at Jabba the Hutt, 40
Robert A. Fett.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't worry about Boba. Well, we'll talk about him later. So I just felt like I could see the influence of the Muppets in that whole Boba Fett. Frank Oz was involved in doing some of the characters,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and the thing that fascinated me most about when they were in Jabba's palace was that little monster that pokes his
Salacious
head up
Crumb.
once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Salacious Crumb. Yeah.
I'm just it makes me laugh because I'm watching this character and I'm like I'm reliving some of those Muppet episodes and then I'm like this is kind of like Men in Black too. I'm just seeing some things there that now I didn't mind it, but it at times I was like 40 years later I feel like we're watching Sid and Marty Croft. You know, I'm not sure if and they won
Yeah.
all kinds of awards for effects, but I don't know. I just think now that we're older and we've seen a lot more visual
Yeah.
effects, this
This is an age, right?
even though it was groundbreaking in its time, has it held up? Well, it's still fun, but I think there's better stuff out there now. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah. So so once they go through that whole rescue first, where they have to get him out of, did and I'm throwing this out to the two of you. Did I watch Boba Fett die falling into that crater?
No. No, no, no. There is, I mean, Boba Fett, but you keep calling him Boba Fett. It's Boba Fett.
Well, that's just
By the way,
well, he and I are friends, so he lets
oh,
me
okay. He
call
goes
him
by
Boba.
Bob.
Yeah, that's
I get it. It's Robert A. Fett. No, I mean the entirety of the Book of Boba Fett Disney Plus series that came out back in 2021 is predicated on the fact that Boba Fett manages to climb his way out of the Sarlacc pit. He survives and he goes on and he has adventures.
oh,
Blah
thank
blah
goodness.
blah.
Oh, thank goodness.
We've
But
seen it in the
and
books too, so it's not
yeah,
like
I would say
it's a
yeah,
thing that hasn't been
yeah.
done.
Peter can speak to more to the books because you have more familiarity
Yeah.
with what they call the non-canonical expanded universe, which is everything that was pre-Disney besides the films was books. Now you got me doing it. Boba Fett had all these different adventures, and there was a Marvel comic that was actually drawn by Ron Frenz, who I interviewed recently, a Heritage Marvel Comics artist, where he escaped, but then at the end of the comic issue, he ended up back in the Sarlacc.
Okay.
It was weird.
So he does go on from there. So the one thing that it sort of jumped out at me was the fact that he did fall into that sand plant man eating whatever it was.
Sarlacc.
I had totally forgotten that. I had totally forgotten that he had as part of that whole sequence, where they're fighting, had fallen in there, and I never saw him come out. But it's nice to know he survived. So
Yes.
I
Book
would
of
think he
Boba
would
Fett.
shoot it. Well, he's covered in armor, and he's basically got a gun with him, so he could just shoot his way out. But I just didn't recall that part of it. So, but I do remember a lot of it. And as far as Luke, like jumping across and fighting everybody on Jabba's freighter.
barge,
I guess
yeah.
it's a freighter. It's a barge. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was sort of showing that he had mastered some of those Jedi techniques
Right.
that he had been learning in the previous movie. So it's kind of nice to see him come out. The other thing, jumping back a little bit too, is the Blues Club. where they had
Oh yeah,
a harmonica player in there. I got to do some research on that. I'm curious
Max
to know
Max
who was
Rebo
actually
and
playing that.
everybody.
But then that character that is it
Size
Size
noodles.
noodles, the
Yeah,
tall with the little mouth, like
yeah.
the snout.
So I said, well, let's take a look at that because, it was kind of a jam in there. I don't know much about the soundtrack. So Annie Arbogast is the person who was doing the singing on that,
Oh, okay.
and that was I'd sent you the Lopty Neck, which is
Yes.
the song, and that's literally the only song she's ever done. I
Oh
looked
man.
high and low to try and find something by her, because I'm thinking, yeah, she's a musical artist. So she's a one-hit wonder, and it all comes from that movie.
Yeah, it's not like it was done by Stevie
Yeah,
Nicks, right? So
yeah. Well, and she's not even singing in a language that we can
right,
understand. So,
Star Wars language,
but
right?
I found that pretty interesting. Also, I sort of like I never knew who really Jabba the Hutt was. So that Larry Ward who played Jabba the Hutt, can't find much on him. But was he actually? Maybe you gentlemen know this. Was he inside Jabba? Was this how did this
You
work?
know, I know that we interviewed a gentleman a number of years back before we had the regular ongoing spotlight. I actually had a team that did it for me, and they brought in this gentleman who was rep by a particular agency they were friendly with, and he like operated the left arm or something, and I'm just dying to know his name. Peter, does this ring a bell? You know the guy I'm
I
talking
don't
about?
remember the guy's name, but yes,
Yeah,
I watched the behind the scenes of the original Star Wars trilogy, and there were like 4 or 5 guys in there operating Jabba.
right. Yeah. So yeah, it was one huge Muppet, Jonathan. So it
Okay.
was 6 different guys.
Yeah, so
So,
but the
but
guy who did the voice was not in there. That was
yeah,
somebody else later.
yeah,
Okay. So I was trying to figure that out because he got a single credit for Jabba the Hutt, but
yeah.
it wasn't a voice credit. It was just his name attached to it. But there were other people that were being recognized for animating
Right,
Jabba.
right.
So, because I'm like, that's a character that really sticks out in this particular film. I mean, he was in the previous one. I don't think he was in the New Hope, but he was.
He was, if you know, I don't, and I know you didn't watch it with us,
Right.
but in one of the subsequent versions, the version that came out in 1997, which would be the
Mm-hmm.
special editions, they took footage, and this will be covered in our episode. They took footage of a human actor who was filmed at the time talking to Harrison Ford. They took that footage, took the human guy out, put in a CGI Jabba to give, making that his first chronological appearance in the
Okay.
series
Ah.
at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then they, even going further back in the prequel trilogy, which we'll talk about at some point down the road, they put Jabba in that movie, which clearly took place beforehand. So,
Well, going back to the whole storyline, it's a rescue, right?
right,
And it's failing miserably. I mean, this is sort of how it's like everybody gets caught
right,
by Jabba and the guards, and then they also have to sort of figure their way out of it. And they did. It didn't seem like they all came in organized as a group. It's just like Leia showed up with Chewbacca. That's what I get out of that, right? She's trying
right.
to work her way in, and then Skywalker sends his, C-3PO and R2-D2 in because
Some of
they're
this orchestra
they're supposed to be some sort of a deal that Jabba will want,
right.
and he likes C-3PO, but he can't stand R2-D2. I don't know where did R2-D2 end up? Trash heap or
Serving
something?
drinks on the sales
Yeah,
page.
he became a mobile, but what we call in the business a mobile bar cart.
Okay. So he really didn't like him, but you saw C-3PO quite a bit because of his ability to, translate.
Translate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that whole rescue is just sort of boggled, and then they figure out a way to. Everybody gets out of there. Once they get Harrison Ford, right, Han Solo,
yeah.
out of the
Defrosted.
carbonite, and
Right.
the one thing that caught my attention was I couldn't remember. I kept thinking that Luke Skywalker was in the suit that brought in Jabba or Chewbacca.
Nope.
I thought.
Oh, right.
I thought that for some reason I remembered it as being Luke, and then when Han Solo falls out of the carbonite and falls
Someone who
forward,
loves you.
like flat on the ground, I'm like,
Yeah, right.
nobody. Why did you try to catch him? And then it's Leia, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay, now I see because she
It
probably.
really hit the ground with a thud too. That was quick.
Yeah,
That was
he
like,
did, and I, I was like,
It
why,
was
why?
revenge for that. Oh, I know line at the
yeah,
end. Like,
exactly.
last
Yeah,
time I
you know
saw you,
what?
you didn't respond to "I love you too." You just said "I know." You get to land face
Women.
first on the
So
floor.
it was a deliberate drop, is what it was.
Right.
Yeah. So that was something else that sort of stuck out in that whole sequence. But they do get out of there, right? They basically escape when they're supposed to be walking the plank, which I felt was
Right.
very pirate-ish. I just,
Right.
it was almost corny.
It was super. It was way too intricate
Yeah.
to actually work. So it was very like, well, oh, we got a plan. It seemed like, but that's always how they did things in Star Wars. They're like, we're going to have this crazy plan and this thing and that thing might go right and wrong. But even if this thing goes wrong, it can circle back around to being right. But anyway, yeah, let's keep moving the ball forward. So yeah, the movie is of course split into kind of three arcs because you've got that arc right there. And then obviously they find out about the Death Star and they've got to,
Well,
they've
don't
got to
go there
find a way to
yet.
destroy it.
He's still
Yeah.
got to go back to Dagobah, and he's still
Right.
and that's I called that more of the revelation scenes
Mhm.
where suddenly all this knowledge is being revealed from Yoda and Obi-Wan to sort of give us a perspective on Luke and where he's
Right.
at with this whole thing. Now he, for a guy who's so enthusiastic about the good side of the Force, not the dark side, but he, for some reason, I don't feel like that confliction of good versus evil in the Force. I don't feel like that was ever really an issue. It seems to be painted in the idea that he's got to battle the inner demons that
Right.
he has.
It's a slippery slope.
I never
Right.
felt like that was even an issue once he knew when he had the whole perspective of like I know who my sister is and I know who my father is. Like, that's a lot of good information that
Right.
somebody
You
would
got to
need.
do good with it.
Yeah.
Right.
So getting getting the revelations, some of the things like it can only be communicated the way Yoda would. He's like Luke is like begging him. Is he my father? Is he my father? Tell me. And your father is.
Dunk. And then he disappears.
Yeah, and then Yoda.
There's that
tells
great.
us,
Yeah.
well, but Yoda's 900 years old at that
Yeah.
point. So he's saying things like he's saying things like Twilight is upon me.
I'm gonna die now, please.
Yeah.
There's that great meme out there where they said Yoda acts the way any parent does when they have a kid who won't stop asking them questions incessantly. That he just dies and disappears.
So the death itself, right? So he's in bed and he's talking about how tired he is and how he's lived 900 years, and he's sort of revealing all this knowledge to Luke, and then when he dies, he disappears. And I was like, is that what happens with Yoda?
That's what happened with Obi-Wan as well in Episode 4. So this was just a continuation of the idea that
if you read the book and there's a special training or whatever, and they tend to elaborate on that in later shows and movies and stuff, that if you take the special correspondence course in living in the Force or whatever, there you go. It's like it's online education.
There you go.
It's like a summer class.
There you go.
The summer class in living beyond the Force. All right. Well, let's move things over. I'm going to kick it over to Peter for just a minute. Let him have a say. So, Peter, as we're moving forward, so we're getting into the middle part of the movie.
Yep.
Now we're in the Redwoods because we're on Endor. How are we doing?
Well,
what's happening here?
Well, first we have the introduction of a character who we only saw briefly in Empire Strikes Back, the Emperor himself.
Oh yes, and somewhat retroactively, actually.
Yeah. And so we get the Emperor himself played in the most amazingly campy and awesome way by Ian McDiarmid. The Emperor is your classic, just evil for the sake of evil bad guy, and he's absolutely fantastic. We're first given the idea that he has less mercy than Vader, so excellent writing there, because we all know Vader kills people for mildly screwing up. So yeah, the Emperor is going to be so much worse. We don't actually see him kill anybody for incompetence in this movie. which was kind of a missed point, but it's a good establishing bit. So we see the Emperor. Just had to mention that because he's one of the best parts of this film. But after we have a meeting with the Rebel Alliance, they decide that they're going to head off to Endor. We have the gang get onto a stolen Imperial shuttle and fly to Endor. Lando stays behind to fly the Falcon and will not break it in any way in the final battle.
Which he does anyway.
Yeah. So we get classic jokes about, Han's flying the Tidarium, and it's like, this is a piece of junk, echoing Luke's line in Episode 4, where he calls the Millennium Falcon a piece of junk.
I know, everybody's a critic.
Yeah. Like this brand new Imperial ship that probably was fresh off the line like 6 months ago. It's a piece of garbage. Well, I mean,
it's probably Lucas. It's the whole car culture thing going back to like American Graffiti, you know.
It's mass produced, just But anyway, so we're on Endor. So now we actually get to see a planet that's green for like the first time. That's not gross.
Well, with the exception of Yavin 4, which we didn't really get to see.
Yeah, we didn't really see it that much.
We were there for like 10 minutes. Yeah.
But like other than that, Dagoba's a swamp. It's not that great. So we have, Endor. They can't land too close because otherwise, you get seen and you get blown up. So they have to sneak over to the shield generator, blow it up. They find scout troopers and shenanigans ensue. Where there's a big long chase scene. The behind the scenes on this are actually quite cool because they had to build little puppets of like Carrie Fisher and others.
Oh, I have seen those.
And
in the
have
animatics,
like sticks attached to their heads to make them look.
Yeah. So in the animatics, they had Chewbacca as riding one of them, which that's what I remember from. But they show him like going along on like a little race wire, like it was like the Derby in Boy Scouts.
Yeah, it's
pretty cool.
It's and most of these shots were not cleaned up for the special edition.
It is pretty clean.
So this one was pretty well done. Most of the shots for the speeder bike, like when we're looking down the front vanes, that was footage of someone running through the forest that they sped up really fast.
Oh, that's funny. So some guy was wearing it as a backpack.
Yeah,
with a camera, and he was like.
Yeah, so I think it may have been on a cart or something, so it was stabilized. But
there you go. Well, I guess
it was just they were just taking the camera through the woods, and they just 200 times speeded it, which is quite funny. But we have shenanigans ensue, and then Leia meets the Ewoks.
All right, let me jump in here, and I'll ask you guys both. So the Ewoks. Now, this was child pleasing 101. This was like, and Star Wars is famous for it. Let's get something that's cute. We've got the droids in the first movie, Yoda in the second movie. Now we got these. Now we have, Baby Yoda or Grogu or whatever it is in The Mandalorian. And then you've got different creatures and different things. Do you think the Ewok, Jonathan, watching it as an adult, how did you take the Ewoks? Like, how did that, what was your vibe?
So 40 years ago, I was actually not bothered, let's just put it that way, by the Ewoks. This time, watching it 40 years later, I'm kind of bothered.
Now I'm bothered. Now I don't like them.
Yeah. Well, over time, I just kept thinking of them as these poor, small people wrapped in carpet. Yeah, that was my, and so when I got to that part where we're going to Endor, the first thought that I had that I wrote down was Ewoks and stormtroopers and Jedis. Oh my!
Oh my God!
Right?
Naturally.
So, but the thing that sort of stuck out to me was they lost track of Leia at that one point, right? And they're all trying to find her. And these Ewok critters seem to be able to take people hostage who have real guns that shoot those, phase photon bullets, and they've got sticks, and so they're not really a threat.
You wouldn't think so, but then in the final analysis,
just too many.
They overthrow the Empire or the ground forces.
Well, they were supposed to be a distraction. That's I think the real meat and potatoes is Luke and the ground team, plus you have the team in the air led by Lando. I feel like that it really was the rebels that settled everything with
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but these Ewoks were I just watching I'm just like the outfits and the faces and the I just felt like okay, like you said, it was for the kids.
Yeah.
And now that I'm older, I'm like, I'm not really enjoying this as much. And this was back in the original when it was released. Time
Right.
was parents were having trouble with it. That was a criticism of the film. The kids certainly
Really?
loved it, but the parents were like, I don't get these Ewoks. I just don't get them.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't get it, or they were like, "Well, I really object to this because I
No,
think
they
it's
just didn't get it. Like
okay."
why are we using
I
Ewoks?
understand.
I
Yeah.
think, but they, you're right. They had, the droids in the other, or they had
Yeah.
those trader merchants that were those small
Yeah.
guys with the glowy eyes.
No, the Jawas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Jawas, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
A lot of people they tend to be pretty dismissive of the fact that Star Wars was always for kids.
right,
And so, but now that we kids are, middle aged and older
right.
or older still, they're like, well, I just think it's stupid that they're putting a brr, brr, brr. I'm like, they're still trying to sell it to kids because
Uh,
there's more of them than there are of us. And so
so,
they need them to go see the movies.
so my research on the Ewoks took me to the two films that
Mm-hmm.
Oh
came
boy.
out about the Ewoks. And
Oh,
just very shortly, the first one didn't do well at all, but the second one, where the battle for Endor, I think is what
right. Yep.
that one did much better. And I think you have to put these Ewoks into battle, even though they've got sticks and rocks and
Right.
whatever they're
They're
using.
warriors.
That's what
Right.
seemed to attract the popular side of looking at these folks.
We are
But
going to actually tackle those films on this show
right.
because we decided we're going to be all encompassing. We're going to cover those. So within the next several months, we'll be talking about those.
But I'd rather have droids and Jawas, and I'm not an Ewok
Yeah.
fan. I'm just not.
All right. So okay. Well, it's all right. So we're doing the Ewok thing. Luke finally has his moment where he's like, I've got to face Vader, so I'm going to surrender myself to him. And so he had this very, kind of thought out emotional moment where they're together on the little stand after the soldiers drop him off. And he's like, Vader's like, I can't surrender. I'm blah, blah, blah. The Emperor will finish your training now. And he takes him to the Emperor. And, the obvious is going to happen. They're going to have a rematch. Luke's lightsaber, this was another piece of this. Luke's lightsaber is now green because he built himself a new lightsaber after he lost his first one. That came as a result of the fact that when they were shooting all of the stuff in Death Valley around Jabba's palace and the fight and all, the blue lightsaber, they had made it blue, but the blue
Disappeared in the
faded
sky.
too much into the background, so they had to change it to green to make sure that you could see it. So that's why there is more than two colors of lightsabers, and not just red is bad and blue is good. So, and of course now there's a zillion. So yes, big long fight, and not surprisingly, obviously Luke comes victorious, and then he has this moment where the Emperor's going to kill him anyway, and then Vader has his moment where he has his big redemption, and he chucks Palpatine over the edge, and that's the last we ever see of Palpatine, right? Right, Peter? Isn't that it? Isn't that the end?
Canonically, yes.
Yeah. The joke, of course, Jonathan, is that the Emperor does come back, and it's resulting in the worst of the Star Wars films.
Well, I'm thinking to myself too that he's not much of an emperor if he's not using the Force to break his fall. I mean, because
you're right.
he did get tossed down there because he was using the Jedi electricity, but.
He's electrocuting himself.
But yeah, I felt that it was just a little too easy for Darth to toss him down there. I watched,
especially with one hand.
Yeah, I know.
He just had a stump.
The thing that definitely did attract my attention watching this film was I wanted to learn more about Darth Vader and who the characters were that played him. So I did spend some time researching these folks, and there's this fellow by the name of Prowse is his last name.
Oh yes, David Prowse.
Yeah. And I was like, well, what characters did he play, and how was he received as only being the body of Darth Vader, not the voice? Everybody knows James Earl Jones. That's
right.
Nothing. I'm not even going to spend time on that because that's probably been talked about. But who's this Prowse fella? So he got his start as a strongman. He was just a big guy, and he was friends with Arnold Schwarzenegger and some of these others. And he was earlier than Arnold getting into acting, and he was encouraging these other bodybuilders to get into acting. So I think he knew Lou Ferrigno too, but in the end, he started at a much earlier time, like in the '60s, and he played these large roles, required a certain amount of size. He didn't have a lot of lines, and he in 3 separate movies, I think. Well, one of them might have been a TV show, but he played Frankenstein's monster, and he got his start doing that too. So he had to have been a big guy. I'm just like, if you're playing the monster and you keep getting into that role, and then they make you Darth Vader. I never realized how big Darth Vader was. I didn't really pay his physically, his size is huge.
Right.
So, and this Prowse was also asked, did he want to play Chewbacca? And he said, no, I want to play Vader. That was it. He made the call on that one. So they found the other fella, who I can't think of his name right now, but
Peter Mayhew was Chewbacca.
Yeah, Mayhew, you're right. And so I became more fascinated with the fact that he had done this character, was not allowed to use his own voice. I don't think he had a problem with it, but after the movie had come out and was released, and it was such a big deal, the whole series, I should say, he did get some negative press, and from what I read, it wasn't deserved. But they said that he was criticizing the films for not letting him be a full actor and have a role and have lines as part of it. He didn't say these things from what I can read, but it did get Lucasfilms upset, and then they had a parting of the ways. There was like some stuff there, that some drama, but it looks like they moved past it. He was banned actually from doing anything with Star Wars for a while.
I did remember that. Yeah, it must have been quite the split.
Interesting situation with him. And again, all he did was just walk around and wave that lightsaber and do a lot of
like a stuntman. In essence. Yeah.
So a fascinating story there. So I did enjoy what he did as Darth Vader, but one of the things you talked about the battle coming out was that Darth Vader didn't know that Leia was a Jedi.
Right.
And that
didn't know about her at all. Yeah.
Right. That comes out during the fight scene. And I felt like it came on a little too easy. I don't know. Luke wasn't putting up any kind of a blocking to his thoughts.
Right.
And I would think if he's a trained Jedi, he'd be able to prevent these people from reading his mind. But
not trained enough.
Yeah, Palpatine had no trouble reading him, and Luke was frustrated by that. So anyway, so that was one thing that I did pay attention to.
Gotcha.
Was dark.
So I'm going to jump into some of the updates we have here, but obviously, everybody knows the story. Good beats evil. Darth Vader sacrifices himself. Luke takes him back to Endor, gives him this big funeral pyre send-off, which we find out is very traditional. When you die and you're a Jedi, they just set you on fire. Everybody gets cremated. I guess there's not a lot of spaces for gravestones on Coruscant, which is of course the Jedi homeworld. And that's just.
But wait, Yoda was a Jedi and he disappeared, and Obi was a Jedi, but Darth dies and you got to burn him. So I'm a little confused by what happens to Jedi.
And the end of it, and this will be illustrated by these notes here. I think what Luke was just burning was the outfit. I don't think Darth was. It wasn't really a barbecue in that fashion, but this should help illustrate that. So
okay.
So we know, obviously, because we mentioned in 1997, there were special editions of the 3 films. Here is, and there are not a ton of changes, but there were some that I thought were pretty decent. So Jonathan was talking about the Lepty Neck musical number was completely replaced by the Jedi Rocks, more upbeat thing with the background dancers. Jonathan, I don't know what version you watched when you watched this movie. Did you watch just what was on Disney Plus?
That one, yes.
Yeah, so you saw this Jedi Rocks. Yeah, the one that you were talking about is just, it's not around anymore unless you have one of the despecialized editions or, God, for the VHS tapes. But the Lefty Neck is what was in the theaters back in '83. They put some footage back in there from the Lefty Neck, but the song itself is gone. They added some shots, for perspective as they're going out on the sail barge. The
They
banthas,
also
which are
added a
basically big
whole
elephants.
scene with the Twi'lek dancer when she falls down
Oh
into the ranking
yeah,
pit.
yeah,
That was recorded for the special editions. They brought the
right. And it
original
was
actress back.
yeah, for like 15 years later, and she looks almost, she's a dancer. She looks almost exactly the same, which I thought was
Yeah,
pretty impressive. The Sarlacc got a glow up because it has a beak and tentacles now, which before it was just like the ball pit at like Chuck E. Cheese. You just jump in it.
with teeth.
It was a really
Yeah, so don't try to
and
climb
teeth.
out.
Yeah, and teeth. They had a weird change where they changed a line that Han said when he was trying to rescue Lando, and where he says, "Okay, trust me," and then he says, "I can see a lot better now." I don't really see what was the point of that. Jumping forward to the end of the film, this is when we get. It wasn't in the original film, but scenes of celebration. And again, I don't know what they're celebrating because the Empire was not defeated at the end of this film.
No,
That was I think probably how they wanted to set it up back in the day. But in subsequent canonical works that have come out afterwards, it's about another year of war before the Empire finally surrenders. But there are celebrations on in other locations around on Endor, obviously, on the Cloud City, Tatooine, where Luke is from. And then we see Coruscant, which is the main super planet of both the prequel trilogy, and then it's where the Empire kind of runs everything. I didn't know this. In the Coruscant scene, a stormtrooper can be seen crowd surfed against his will and utters the Wilhelm scream. Peter, did you know? I didn't
caught
know
it.
that at all.
Yep.
But it's because
I
it's
always
so
catch
small.
the Wilhelm scream, and he's in the bottom left part of the screen on that final pass as the statue's being toppled.
Oh my God! I had the statue toppling I knew about, but the very famous Ewok celebration song, or as we know it back in Gen X, the Yub Nub song, is replaced by an entirely new John Williams
Blissfully
composition.
removed.
Oh,
Blissfully.
come on! That's rough. Totally replaced by a new composition, which was
John
that
Williams
was discussed
music
back in
that's
the day.
instrumental is superior by exponents than
Exponents. Let's see here. So in the '04 DVD release, now we're jumping back to when Luke takes Vader's helmet off and we see Anakin's real face.
Mm-hmm.
They touched up actor Sebastian Shaw by removing his eyebrows, which would make sense. Vader was a burn victim. He totally caught on fire. That's why he looks like that. So he's not going to have big bushy eyebrows. It looks kind of silly.
I'm gonna apologize, but I always think of Humpty Dumpty when that helmet.
Or some people say Billy Joel with the with harmonica. I know that's mean. Yeah. I know. I love Billy Joel, but he's not aged gracefully, and
he kind of looks like just an egg, just like an.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, they it said his eyes have been changed to blue to more accurately look like actor Hayden Christensen, who plays Anakin in the prequels, which we'll get to in a second. They added in a scene from Naboo, which was a pivotal planet in the first prequel film. And there are some Gungans, Jar Jar Binks people, who say, "We so free." And some people thought maybe it was Jar Jar Binks, but it was not him. It was just all. You don't want to say all Gungans look alike, but they apparently they all sound alike, at least in this reference. Back to the Coruscant, they have the Galactic Building, but you see the Jedi Temple in the distance, which again referencing, because this came out in '04, this new edition referencing back to 1999, that the Jedi Temple, that's where they all lived at, but it was still around back in the day. The big change that people find very controversial is at the very end of the film, we have the ghost characters of Sir Alec Guinness. To my right is Obi-Wan Kenobi. In the center is Yoda. He's a puppet, can't change that much. And to the left was Sebastian Shaw, who was the actor who we saw his caked up, no eyebrow face when the helmet came off. So for the '04 edition, they replaced it with Hayden Christensen, who is Anakin Skywalker. So I'll ask you two guys, where do you find the logic in why the two of them look like they looked when they died, Yoda and Obi-Wan, and Anakin looks like he looked when he was young? Because I have a thought about it, but we'll see. Jonathan, do you have a particular rationale why he doesn't look old, why he looks young, and the other two don't?
I saw that, and I questioned the young Anakin. So because when I saw that come on the screen, I'm like, well, there's Yoda and there's Obi-Wan looking just like they are, and I wondered about that because I'm like, it honestly, it didn't make sense to me. It did not make
Yeah.
sense to me. And I'm like, so is this supposed to be better days? You know, is that what we're doing here? Or I just I couldn't figure out why they did that. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you raised it as a question. Uh, did it bother me? No. Did it puzzle me? Yes. I was totally puzzled by
Right.
that. And so
Right.
as I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, did something get changed?
Right. Because it felt out of place, right?
Right. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I I actually today, without having looked at it much further, other than just questioning it, I'm really curious to hear what you two have to say about it because
Well, we'll see if Peter echoes what I think, and I suppose we'd have to dig in and get really official and look into some kind of canon explanation. But Peter, why do you think Anakin is young and the other two are not?
So the reason that I've come to understand why Anakin appears younger at the end is it primarily has to do with his state of being from when he was still a good person.
Yes,
So
that's what I think.
the rationale is that the burnt up crispy toast boiled egg that we see at the end
New name for the
is
episode.
not
Keep talking.
is not who Anakin is in his essence, because that is the wrecked version of him that has subsisted through the evil that was Darth Vader. And so when we see Anakin, what we are seeing is the purified essence, the redeemed Anakin Skywalker, and
Right.
the person who was Anakin was the young Anakin,
Yeah.
who subsisted through. So the old, the beat up, the destroyed, that wasn't Anakin, that was Darth Vader, which we hear kind of, from the point of view of Obi-Wan, this is kind of justified, right? Darth Vader
Right.
kills Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. And so the only thing that's left to be resurrected, as it were, is the Anakin that we know from the prequels. And so that's why we see him as the good version of Anakin is the only one that can survive as a Force ghost. And so that's why we see him that way. So as from a filmmaking standpoint, I still think that there's some value to having Sebastian Shaw there just because they did it. He was the actor who was there. But like, I don't find fault in this. Like, I think that it's kind of an interesting take on redemption and resurrection and all of that.
I see that.
So yeah. It's not like it is one of those sorts of things that I have mixed feelings about, but I understand it and I'm okay with it.
As opposed to the Yub Nub song, which
the Yub Nub song, I have no qualms. I was listening to my Star Wars soundtracks, and the soundtrack that I have was the one that was released with the special edition, so it doesn't have that.
Okay.
And then I was listening to them online, and it brought up the Yub Nub song in it, and it was a blast from the past because I grew up listening to that because we didn't get the special edition VHS for a while. I watched the original. And it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this song and how terrible it was. Even as a kid, it was like, yeah, this is weird. And then when they finally brought in the John Williams music, this feels much more like it feels like it fulfills what's going on.
Yeah. It's got kind of that new age pop because it's like do 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 do, like you'd hear it in your dentist's office, right?
I don't know about that, but it's because of the instrumentation and the way that it's composed. The newer piece actually sounds like there's some sort of like victory galactic rather than we just blew up the Death Star like in Episode 4. Now the Empire is going to show up and kick our ass again in the next movie.
You're right.
So this music kind of adds to, especially when they added all those scenes, it adds to we actually won, guys.
Yeah.
It's not just the Ewoks. We got to eat Stormtrooper tonight. Like, that's not what we're doing.
We're not even getting into the cannibalism because, again, the other point of view is during the mid part when the Ewoks have carried them back to the Ewok village, our heroes, and they have. First of all, where did they get the chair to carry around C-3PO? Did somebody run back and grab that? Did they whittle that together real quick? But then, why does Leia have this like cool like Pocahontas looking outfit? Pardon the expression. Did they whip that up too, or they just happened to have had a previous human being there that was the same size that they ended up eating, and they kept the outfit? You know what? It's probably best not to dig into that too much.
Sometimes there's things we don't need answers to.
I guess. All right, let me finish up this piece with changes. So we're up to 2011 with the Blu-ray release. They edited Jabba's big door on the outside to make it look larger, and there were some scorch marks on it. At least I thought that looked new. They added a CGI character walking around a Dug, which is a DUG, which is the Sebulba from Episode 1, one of the pod racers, if you recall that film. CGI eyelids added to some of the Ewoks. Now that is truly pivotal filmmaking. It's very important. It's very important. I'm telling you.
They also changed so that the eyes actually moved.
Yes, yeah.
Because they originally were just kind of black orbs, and now you can see like irises and stuff. So,
and last but certainly not least, when Vader picks up the Emperor to throw him down, he goes, "No!"
Yeah, no.
Kind of like he says no when he first wakes up as Darth Vader at the end of Episode 3. So, he's what can I say? He's a very negative character. He needs to live in more of a yes world. That's what I think.
Well, that's the problem. He said yes too many times, and that got him toasted. So
literally a boiled egg toast. All right, I'm going to read a couple of comments from the socials, and we're going to circle back, and everybody can kind of give some final thoughts if that's cool. So I did toss this out to our social media about a week ago, and I heard back this first comment I've had from my best buddy, John Sear, who was my college roommate, and he's been a frequent star here on the network, a guest star. Return of the Jedi is a good movie with bad parts, while Revenge of the Sith is a bad movie with good parts. Ooh, yeah. We better not put the two of you in a room together at some point. Jabba's Palace is a fun set piece. The space battle and character moments are well done. The goofiness falls flat, and the pacing in the middle is terrible. I really can't argue with the pacing piece. I think that...
Yeah, the pacing does get muddled in the middle of the film, yeah.
Exactly. All right. And from Kurt Krug, who is a good buddy of mine and is now active on our Discord after much poking because he's a Facebook guy. I remember the long-ass 3-year wait to find out what happened to Han Solo. Kurt is a year older than myself, so he saw it in kind of the same context I did. The rescue did not disappoint, like Jonathan was saying, even though it was predicated on like a little, well, if this part happens, hopefully this part can happen. You know what I mean?
Plan, Luke.
Yeah, it seemed like it was two different movies, and sometimes maybe three. You had the first half saving Han. You had the second half divided between the Ewoks and Luke versus Vader. I also thought the sculpts of the toys were much improved than the ones released at the time of Star Wars and the Empire. Probably. But by modern standards of figures, they're all terrible, but people do love them. Lastly, Slosh Ritter, frequent contributor to our SFU Discord, one of our patrons, very grateful for that. This is my first memory of going to an indoor theater as opposed to riding in the family station wagon to the drive-in. I remember it being in a mall, so probably a discount screening, though, and all I recall from being there is the lobby before or after. That Christmas, I wanted to be an Ewok, but the mask sold out too quickly for me to get one. So I ended up with an Admiral Akbar mask. I didn't even know they made those. And felt mildly embarrassed, wearing it. But I've come to appreciate the character sense. Well, look at that. There's room for growth. All right. Well, let's give some parting thoughts per the notes. What we thought and kind of what's its place in the pantheon of all of Star Wars. So, Jonathan, where do you leave us with this film?
Well, the description that it was done in 3 parts, I think, is really appropriate for the film. I broke it down a little differently, but it all sort of ends up in the same place. I believe that the first part of it was just going back and rescuing Han from Jabba the Hutt, and how it was really unplanned. It's like everybody just sort of showed up and hoped they got the job done. And then from there, Luke goes back and gets the revelations about his own family, which sort of gives him the perspective to go forward and confront the Emperor and Darth Vader. And then the other part of it, because there's the Skywalker part of it, but then there's this resistance planning that basically takes over the film. It's like, we're going to go get the Empire. And they make all their plans, and there's improvising while they're doing it. But there's like, like when Lando finally puts the hit on the reactor inside the Death Star, you get a big yeehaw as he's flying away. Um, so it was a little campy. We've heard that word
Yeah.
today, and I think that the Emperor, I think he did. I think they could have done more with him. I liked him in the part. I think he was
Yeah.
the right choice. But they were saying lines like, "Now, young Skywalker, you will die." Like he would say that, and then he would wait. Well, if you
Yeah.
kill him and you've got the Force, what are you waiting for? And then,
Right.
he's like, "I will turn you, Luke." Like, he was big on turning Luke, and Luke is like, "I'm a Jedi like my father before."
And then you zap him.
And then his father's standing there missing a hand, right? So,
Yeah, right.
so
It's complicated family stuff. There's no
I
doubt.
felt like, too, if they're going to make the Emperor more sinister, get him out of the lazy boy. He spent a lot of time in that chair.
He does. He's sitting for like probably about 75% of his screen time.
And I'm like, is he that old like Yoda where he can't get up and move around? But Yoda was pretty.
He's still got lightning.
Yeah, and he had plenty of lightning, and it took a while. But then again, Luke has the Force too, so it's going to take a while. I thought
Your Schwartz is
the throwing him down the reactor shaft was kind of goofy too, because if he's the Emperor, why didn't he just? I mean, he's supposed to be stronger than Darth, and Darth is missing a hand. Why are we in this situation where? But it is what it is, right?
Indeed it is.
So as I rank it, and then it's got Ewoks in it too, which I don't know. I like the first two with the droids and the Jawa, but anyway, I put this one third in that trilogy. I noticed that it's getting scores of like an 8.3. In some, I think it was international database, a movie database.
Yeah, the internet data.
They gave it a ranking. Rotten Tomatoes ranked it above an 8. I give it a 7, like a flat 7. I could have even gone lower, but there's some things I liked about it. As I watched it again, I'm like, okay, this is fun. I'm getting the closure that I need from the previous. And really, this is the end of 6 different movies. They just haven't made the other 3 yet. So it has to make sense in that context. And I think they pulled it off. The ending when they're showing the 3 Jedi ghosts, I did question why the young Anakin. I think Peter cleaned that up pretty well for us today. So I feel a little better about that. But again, I'm like, why didn't they just show like a cleaned up Darth? Suddenly he doesn't look like a boiled egg anymore. He looks like himself. And they could have used the other actor. But you know what? Let's just go back. Let's just have a young Anakin. It's better days kind of thing. So
better days.
So I don't know where you guys fall, but I put a 7 on it, and I feel very good about that 7.
That's
all right, Peter. How about you?
I would tend to agree probably with the IMDb folks putting it around an 8. Because I think there's a lot of good here. I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of the Ewok stuff just because it kind of dithers. It's not necessarily because of the Ewoks. It's just the story bits just kind of dither around there. It kind of gets. They're not entirely sure what to do with that, I think. But I think that this had some really good stuff with, the good versus evil bits with the Emperor and Luke. We saw some some firming up of how the Jedi are described and how they're supposed to behave. Some of that light side, dark side, where we got some hints of how Lucas was going to deal with Anakin's fall to the dark side in the later ones, because we see the same sorts of things that Palpatine's trying to do. Yes, your friends, they are your greatest weakness. All of that.
He was precursor to Mr. Burns. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And then also like the temptation of like, I am defenseless, strike me down. Like all of this where he's just like, I'm the big bad guy. If you kill me right here, you do it in cold blood and you'll fall to the dark side, but you might get what you want. Like, there's some really interesting stuff going on here. And so I think that a lot of that is really well done. Obviously, the space battle is fantastic. There's some really, really good. This is some of this is like top-notch ILM stuff, especially for the time.
Right, with all practical
Some of
effects
it
and
did
stuff.
get touched. Some of it did get touched up for the special edition, but a lot of it just remained as it was.
Right.
And so we don't see like that level of just like, here's a shit ton of TIE fighters coming at your face, until we get to like, much later films like Rogue One, where now they're all CGI. And so they can just like copy paste TIE fighter and throw it at you.
Control Alt Delete paste.
So Control Shift P, Control Shift V.
Yes, exactly.
Here they are.
You're right.
So there's some really good stuff here. I do like how this ends in terms of how it wraps up the arc, especially if you look at it in the story of the 6 original films, because then we get everyone likes to talk about, oh, well, it's the Skywalker saga and does all these things. Like, sorry, but the sequels don't understand what Skywalker saga means. Because in the original 6 films, you have the rise, fall, and redemption of Anakin. And so if you were going to actually continue the Anakin Skywalker saga, what you really should have done is you should have done the legacy of Anakin, which they didn't really do very well. But we have that. We have another fantastic score from John Williams, where we get some really nice pieces with like the Emperor, Luke and Leia's theme. There's some really good parts. The release of the soundtrack isn't quite as solid as the earlier films, because a lot of the battle scenes are just kind of unsweeted, so it's not like as you hear it in the film. It's just kind of like, here's a chunk, here you go.
And no Yub Nub. Terrible.
No Yub Nub. Oh no, I'm so sad.
Take away my Yub Nub.
So I tend to really like a lot of Return of the Jedi. It's just some of the Ewok stuff pulls it down a little bit for me. I think that the stuff on Tatooine's great. I liked a lot of the changes that they did on Tatooine. I do vaguely remember the original song, but I think that the Jedi Rocks one is just fine, because
it was funny in the theaters
because like the original was kind of like just lounge music, and so it was
like do 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 do. Well, Jonathan had a clip. He was like do do. It sounded like a guy playing like the xylophone, didn't it? It was kind of like do 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 do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of that music that still exists in like when you first see Jabba and he takes the pipe out of his mouth. There's a little bit of that still going there. But I think that bumping up the energy was probably a good call for that. So, but overall, good film. I really like the acting is a lot better. I know I've commented on the acting in all 3 films. The acting is a lot better in this one with everybody. And then you also get like my favorite, Ian McDiarmid. I love the Emperor as a character. He's just evil incarnate, and just he is there to be bad, and we don't really need a lot of his motivation. He's like Sauron, or he's just there, and he's evil, and he's doing bad things. So
he's just there.
Yeah.
I probably agree. I think 8 is pretty solid, because you're right. The Ewok stuff is pretty tedious. The third act with the Ewoks on the planet doesn't really make a lot of sense, because how does the mightiest army in the galaxy get beat by a bunch of effing teddy bears, I think was the expression that was used in the Robot Chicken send up of this.
I mean, as a kid, I loved seeing the chopped up trees smashing the walkers and the
exactly
getting rocks thrown on their heads. Like, it's fun to watch.
It's a crowd pleaser, but yes, as for logic for the film, not at all. But the important parts of it, Luke and Vader, Han and Leia, kind of starting to figure their hash out, and the connectivity and the love between the characters, and how they risked everything to save him with this totally screwball plan. Good stuff all around. Not as strong as the themes of Empire, and certainly not as world-changing as Episode 4, the Star Wars first film really was. So I'd have to, if I'm keeping it contained within the trilogy, I would have to say this was my 3rd place as well. So that's it. That takes us out of the Star Wars trilogy, and we are moving on to some newer and other things. We will be, Jonathan did tee us up that we are going to tackle those Ewok movies just as a giggle, because I've not sat down and watched one with any kind of seriousness, but I will be taking the hell out of some notes for that one.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. But Jonathan, always a pleasure. You are with us all the time on a lot of our different shows, so we're very grateful. Where do people find you out there if they want to talk about Return of the Jedi?
Well, I did join the Discord chat, so find me in there.
Woohoo!
Yes, I'm under Sned, so just look for me that way.
Sneddery. And Peter, how about you?
Well, you can find me around the interwebs at Petrus Aquinas on various social medias. I'm not terribly active, but if you poke at me, I might say something.
Don't feed the trolls.
Otherwise, you can find me over at ELH's Twitch and YouTube channel, where I play a engineer on a Starfleet vessel, and you can also find me behind the scenes on Starship Excelsior.
All right, good stuff. And I think we have links for that in at least one of our shows. But as always, you can find me at kind of my big three social medias, which would be Instagram. It's now TikTok, though. That's Secret Friends Unite. Sorry. So Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. I am at the C3, TheCeeThree. I have kind of moved into taking over the Secret Friends Unite socials. That would be Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and now TikTok. April and I have done one video. We need to do another one where we do just short little bits where we're talking about something that we've seen. It's a brand new day because, again, Peter and I have kind of taken over this enterprise, so we're kind of finding our way. So if you're a Patreon, we did post a poll recently. We would love to hear your thoughts about how we're doing and some other things that we can do for you. But with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. Jonathan, thanks again for being here.
Happy to be
here. As always,
good time had
I will say, good time was had by all. I will say, sharing is caring, and keep on trucking.
May the force be with you.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.